Yes, we are live. Welcome back, my dear friends. This is episode number 95 on Zero Point Healing Show. And today we are going to talk about something very, very interesting, the quantum healing hypnosis technique, as well as how we can use it to unlock infinite potential within us. So it's a beautiful modality, and this is the first time I'm getting to interview somebody from QHHT. So I have an amazing practitioner with me today. But before I begin, just a short intro about me. I'm Vishnupriya, and I am the founder of zeropointhealing.com, which is a web directory of all holistic healing modalities and all holistic healing practitioners, facilitators, healers from all different areas of different holistic healing modalities that we have today. And when I did start the directory, I only had knowledge of about 5 to 10 modalities. But after I started the directory, now there is about 50 different, 50 different modalities that is already registered. And it always surprises me that we have so many beautiful tools. For me, each different modality is a beautiful different tool that can help different people unlock their true potential. And that's exactly what all of these modalities have done in my life. I have been personally certified in at least 5 to 6 different modalities. And as I did go through these different ones, I was able to use these tools for myself. And when I did get started, I was absolutely in a zero position. And from there, I had kind of improved in my life to create different things that which I wanted in my life. So this has absolutely empowered me. And that kind of inspired me to create this platform as well, which is zeropointhealing.com. So if you are a holistic healing practitioner yourself, I invite you to register at zeropointhealing.com. And if you're interested in one such interview like this, you can contact me for that as well. But if you are a client searching for solutions for different problems, different challenges, and especially challenges such as when we have a question about our life purpose, when we have a question about, okay, what am I here for? Who am I? What is it that I'm doing in this planet Earth? So these kind of questions, I'm sure Google might not be able to answer you. So that's where these holistic healing modalities can help you discover the answers are within you. So I think that's very much related to what we are going to discuss today. And now I'm ready to move on to my guest. Welcome. Okay, I'm gonna practice your name here. Can you tell that once again?
Sure, Ignazio.
Ignazio. So that's nice. I
You
hope
did very well before our interview. Yeah, perfect.
yeah, I forgot after my speech here. I'm like, okay, I don't want to make the mistake.
Sure,
So Ignacio, thank you so much for coming
sure.
to my beautiful show here, and tell us a little bit about yourself, your
Thank
background.
you.
I see you are from Italy, so tell us about your beautiful entry
Yes,
into the holistic healing world.
sure. So, my name is Ignazio, like we said, and I was born and raised in Italy. My mom is from Chicago, so I kind of was raised also bilingual, and I was going back and forth to the States all my life, but mainly raised in Italy. And I'll shorten the story of my life, of course, and I'll put it into perspective with how I got where I am and why I'm here. And I grew up in between these two worlds, and I was very interested when I was younger in science. So I enrolled when I was 18 into chemical engineering. I had very strong passion for science and technologies, but at the same time, I was quite a troubled young man in terms of, I was 21, 22, and it was still a little bit like being a teenager. And I've always had kind of a good heart, but I also had a lot of anger, and I was getting into trouble. I had very good friends, but I was also, keeping not great companies. But I had a lot of pain that I didn't quite understand. And so one day in all of this process, I asked myself a question, is this really like all there is. Is there something else that I'm not seeing? And that started something that was very mysterious at the time, but it started to open some doors without me quite understanding how. And fast forwarding a little bit, that was one of the first times where at some point I felt this powerful yet graceful energy guiding me. And I remember I was sitting on my bed and I was a little bit down, and I felt this urge to go to this bookcase and pick this book out. And I took it out from the back, and it was a book that was written from Gandhi. And it was basically his vision of Hinduism. And I started to read that book, and I was completely mesmerized at his morality and his logic in terms of, kindness and nonviolence. But I was also very, very atheist, very materialistic. And I remember the word God was constantly popping up. And I was like, well, you're amazing. And I bow down, but this word has nothing to do with me. And I just kept skipping it and skipping it. And then I remember one night I was lying in bed and I was reading it. And it was almost like for some reason my mind decided not to skip that word, that concept. And as soon as that happened, it was like this lightning crossed my whole body and and knocked me out. And the next day, after a series of dreams and experiences, I woke up in absolute tears, in absolute bliss, and completely immersed in this energy that was guiding me every single step. And I had planned to go study for an exam and my parents' kind of summer home. But it turned out that I was going to go there anywhere. And I just basically sat there and started meditating for days and days in this state of complete bliss. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew that my whole world was completely different. And it was like something, even though I couldn't exactly understand what, was almost coming back to me. It had a familiarity to it. It wasn't just a new experience, it was something that I had known forever. And so, as this was happening in an amazing way, my best friends were experiencing something like that in the same moment, including my best friend who was in Costa Rica, who then told me he thought, he would come back to Italy and Sicily and would find his friends looking at him like crazy. And then he realized we were all going through the same thing. And so it was like a brotherhood awakening that just sparked this fire in all of us. And we all started, making a story short, all started meditating and going, to techniques and masters. And we were having all these amazing encounters. And the first thing that we got to was basically self knowledge and deep silent meditation. And that was the start of our spiritual journey. And fast forwarding a little bit in time, even though I wasn't sure what I was going to do with all of this stuff, I kept my scientific studies and I kept my university and got my degree in chemical engineering. And after that, I kind of came to England and started working here for an amazing company in water purification. So I was looking at new technologies and water purification, and I started teaching meditation here in England, and everything was fine and beautiful. But there was something still missing, which was like I didn't quite understand why that had happened to me. Why, at the age of 22, from one day to another, I had changed so much that when I came back from that experience from my parents' summer home, I actually went back and reintroduced myself to everybody I knew because I was a completely different person. I had to see them again to, you know, and and so about 4 or 5 years ago, That's when I came across QHHT. And my wife actually found, Dolores Cannon and videos of Dolores Cannon. And she went first for a session and came back luminous, radiant like I'd never seen her before. And so I realized that there was the opportunity of learning this QHHT technique, and I devoured the course and I started doing session after session, my practice session, um, until I also then received my first session, in which, and we'll talk about it later, you prepared the most important questions of your life. And that was one of my main questions. What happened to me? What was that thing that, also happened to my friends, but to me in such a powerful way? And so when I had my first session, I found the answers to all of those questions. And since then, I've changed course, and not changed course, but um, refined course in a way. So that's a little bit of a short story of how I got here.
Wow, that's so amazing. And would be lovely to have that kind of, I would call it the spiritual awakening kind of process there that you mentioned, which should have been, when it comes all of a sudden, we wouldn't know what it is all about. But that was nice to see you had that kind of the brotherhood that you talk about, and now you have a little more confirmation that okay, I didn't go mad. In fact, there's somebody else experiencing the same thing as well. That's a beautiful way
Absolutely.
putting it. So now let's talk about the quantum healing hypnosis and what it is all about. So tell us what happens in a QHHT session, or you can even tell us your first experience of the QHHT session. And you mentioned about how you go to the session with a list of important life questions. So tell us what happens in a session, how long it is, and what can we get out of it.
Sure. So QHHT was designed and refined by Dolores Cannon, who I have infinite respect and love for. And she refined this technique over decades of work and practices. And one of the peculiarities of QHHT is that it was designed to work in one time. So unlike other hypnosis or hypnotherapy processes, you see your QHHT practitioner only once. Usually, there is a possibility of using QHHT in a different way, like for spiritual development, which is, for example, how I use it. So I've received many QHHT sessions. So from that point of view, we devolve to the client basically our whole day, however many hours it takes. And usually with me, it's about 5 hours. That's about how long I usually spend with one person, sometimes six, sometimes a bit more. And so the client prepares the most important questions in their life, because we look at their life from a holistic point of view, because everything is connected. And one of the main questions that we always advise to put on there, which is a little bit what you were talking about in the beginning, is what is my life purpose? What am I here for? And on a more common level, usually the answer, or always the answer to this question, is to grow in our capacity to love and serve. But the way we do it and our special role is a little bit like the beauty of what we need to uncover. So the person prepares these questions, and then they come and we spend those 4 or 5 hours together. And in the beginning, we go through their entire life story. That is so that the person, well, I can get to know them, of course, and the person can go through what has led them to where they are and have an overview of it. And after that, we go through the questions, make sure, after hearing their life story, I understand them well enough, because my job is then going to be like a spiritual detective. So when we do this, when we finish this first part, then the second part is the hypnosis in itself. And that usually lasts about 2 hours. And the first part of it is where we give complete free rein to the subconscious and the superconscious mind to show the client whatever they need to see. And that comes, um, I call it the masterpiece. It's like the most amazing artist painting this, 3D, 4D, 5D picture um, that has the freedom that you can have in any of your wildest dreams, but has that meaning and depth that is appropriate for that person to relive with the emotions and see. And once we go through that, then that is when we take that deeper step and move into what is called um, the higher self or the superconscious mind, which is the part of the person that knows everything about himself. And so, in that part, that's where even more of my detective work comes in. And I'm acting on behalf of the client, trying to find the answers, um, not just intellectually, but energetically, experientially to those questions so that they can know and wake up, in a way that they can almost a sigh of relief and say, okay, now I get it. Now I know why all those things happened to me. Now I know who I am. Now I know why I'm here. And now I know what I need to do now to move in that direction. And that is the most amazing part of my job. And that is something very humbling to be part of that process.
Wow, that's amazing. And 4 to 5 hour session, and it should be, have you seen, so how has been the client's response? So what kind of maybe the results after the session, what have been they telling you?
Sure. One of the main responses is the sense of lightness, of feeling light, like something has been, taking off your shoulders. Another one is intense joy and also like curiosity, almost like now you're going into something great. And so you have that sparkle in your eyes and that passion and that energy, a little bit like, before you might have felt isolated, and now you know that the whole universe is like, holding you, and you're this little wave carried by this huge ocean, and you feel both. And then there's also the physical healing part, which is something that is quite difficult to pinpoint scientifically. But the best way I can put it is that there is much more of a psychosomatic, much more of a mind body connection that we usually think there is. And so many more of our, you know, let's call them diseases or health issues, are related to the misunderstandings that we have of how our body tries to speak to us. So it's a powerful work that we do in that state. We harvest that knowledge and we ask the higher self, the super consciousnesses, why is this part of the body or this aspect of my health not healthy? And what is it trying to tell me? And when you discover what the hidden message from the body is and how you can answer to it, that's when things start to fall away. So there's been, things that often not even people come for and they drop, even allergies or pains. So that's another aspect, which is also powerful and amazing. Even though personally, I, although that is amazing, for me, the connection with purpose and knowing who you are and why you're here is even more. because you can bear an illness if you know it's your teacher. You can walk around with something that most people would run away from if you understand what it's trying to teach you and you know you're learning from it. So it's quite strange to say, but health isn't quite the most important thing, even though we're usually brought up. It's amazing and we want it. And if it comes to us and we can look for it, but knowing that it doesn't have to be. And the most important thing is to be yourself and find your way and go all the way. In what we were saying, unlocking your potential. That's what QHHT, I believe, is here for.
That's beautifully said. So, is there any specific client stories maybe you can tell us, what a specific client came to you for, maybe certain questions about life purpose or whatever the kind of question he or she had, and how the session was, and then what kind of maybe results that the client was able to see after the session. Maybe just walk us through maybe a few client stories if you have.
Um, there's so many. That's a bit kind of almost hard to to pinpoint one. I think some of the ones that stay more in my mind are the ones in which the people are connected to their higher dimensional selves. And I've had clients, for example, that um, come out of the session with a knowledge that goes beyond what we would call is this current incarnation. And it's a little bit like, we are told in our spiritual process and we learn that we're not really the body, that the body is something that we function through. And so that we have something deeper, but this something deeper can almost be seen as a fractal. I don't know if people are necessarily aware of that terminology, but a fractal is a bit of a mathematical expression where you can always go to a deeper level and you have a similar pattern that repeats, but at a deeper level. And so people connecting to these higher dimensions that are almost like the common denominator through which life is experienced through these different cycles on Earth. So the stories that are closer to me are the stories in which people access these higher dimensions and bring a wisdom that is really not of this world. And it's a little bit difficult to imagine because we are in this world, but it's almost like we can get this wisdom that in a way is part of the universe that, but perhaps we would need hundreds or thousands of years of evolution to be able to grasp organically. And QHHT is this kind of shortcut. So although it's amazing for everybody, I really recommend it for those who are seeking these spiritual answers inside and that are longing to connect with these dimensions.
Wow, that's so amazing. So thank you so much. So tell us about the services that you provide. I see that you also have the BQH. So maybe if you want to just touch base on, what
Sure,
might be a little bit difference and how the sessions are. You mentioned that
sure.
some are in person and some are online. So tell us about that.
Yeah, sure. So anybody who I see in person, I work with QHHT with. And BQH is an alternative modality that stemmed from QHHT, but that was also not just, it was also developed to work online. And so when you train in BQH, you also train in how to deliver the sessions online. And BQH also gives kind of the practitioners usually a little bit more of a free range to use um, their intuition a little bit outside of the method. So those are the two main differences. And QHHT is not delivered online, which is, a choice also of the QHHT Academy and of Dolores's legacy. So I work with both, and when I work online, I work with BQH, which has been amazing. I've had very successful sessions from England all the way to Australia and in the northern lands of Scotland and all sorts. But I also work as a spiritual mentor. So I offer services in spiritual mentoring where the type of work is different. We work more on developing spiritual practices, meditative practices, energy practices that are something that you establish in your life. So these are experiences that you have, a few times scattered, in your life. Some of the many keen people may have a few a year, but in our own life, we especially for spiritual development, efficient, stable, clear practices. So I work with people also in that manner.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Is it on a program kind of basis, or how do you do those spiritual development classes?
Sure. So I do those both online and in person. And usually we decide to gather on cycles of sessions. So it might be a cycle of 4 or 8 sessions, depending on where the person is with their practices, if they do know how to meditate already, or if they need, some refinement of their practice, or they need other supporting practices, advanced energy or pranayama or breathing techniques. I work a lot with Kundalini, so with kind of managing the Kundalini energy, awakening it, cultivating it through ancient Taoist and yogic practices. So we decide a starting amount of sessions and a frequency, and then we meet and we go through those. And sometimes the relationship continues. Sometimes people then go their way and practice what they learned.
That's so beautiful. Can you give us, just before we end, maybe like a list of certain questions? So people who are watching this video right now, they might have different types of questions in their mind, which they might not even consciously be aware of. So maybe giving like a sample kind of questions can kind of let them know, okay, the best way that I can find answer to this maybe is to kind of go for a QHHT session. So tell us maybe just sample list of kind of
Sure,
questions that might be your clients are coming with you for.
sure. So first of all and foremost, why am I here? What is my life purpose? That's a very good question to ask. Another one is, what is my main block in life? What is it, if anything, that is stopping me from going and unlocking my fullest potential? And how do I go about that? That's another question. Another question is often about relationships. How can I improve my relationship with this person or with my family or with my partner? Other questions are, why do I have this certain illness, to use a word, or physical problem? What is my body, my subconscious trying to tell me, and how can I heal it? And other questions might be of more of a spiritual nature, which is, why do I have this longing for the stars? Or why do I sense, lots of people start to get a sense of these, that they're helped from other dimensions and they want a bit more of an understanding. So that's another question that you can ask. I think in summary, what we need to get to is, how can we be more ourselves? That's really what we want to be, because in that is the joy of being alive. It's when we follow who we really are. And it's a gift, because if enlightenment was that we had to copy the Buddha, we'd have a terrible a really, really terrible time at being something like that. but we can be reassured that our Buddhahood resides in being ourself, which in a way should be the easiest thing that we can do. So another great question is, how can I be myself?
Wow, that's amazing list of questions and interesting questions as well. I think everyone in the world would need to know kind of, okay, what am I here for? How can I be the best version of myself, right? Thank you so much. That was a wonderful session, and I love the information that you have shared with our viewers today. Thank you so much. So, my dear viewers,
My pleasure.
there you go. If you're interested in doing one of such QHHT sessions or the BQH sessions, uh, with Ignazio, then you can just click on the link below. So right below the video, you will have the link to his profile. You can click on that. You can contact him, email him, ask him, is it possible for me to get answers to these kind of questions, or whatever other questions or things that you want to kind of discuss with him. You can have a discussion, and then you can book a session with him. Along with that, he has offered us a 15% discount on any sessions that you want to book with him through 0 Point. The coupon code is 0 Point. So when you contact him, just let him know that you found him from 0 Point, and he will give you that beautiful 15% off discount as well. So thank you so much, Ignacio. So tell us if you want
Thank you, Vishnu.
final words.
Just thank you to you for the beautiful work you do and for the opportunity that you gave me to speak to you and to people. And all the best with your work, which is really important in giving us a voice and tying in all these different modalities and people that are serving others. So thank you, Vishnu.
Thank you so much. Wow. Thank you so much for your beautiful words there. All right, my dear viewers, I'm going to see you in my next show. But if you're watching this on YouTube, please do subscribe and share the video with your family, friends, relatives, anybody whom you think that this video is going to help them. Please do share it as well. Thanks so much for all your support. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.